Oxygen taken away, hydration taken away, and oversedation is murder.
Isn't the definition of euthanasia hurrying death along because you just want to avoid the discomfort in the middle?
She clearly was murdered.
She is Sister Philip Marie Burley.
How are you feeling this morning?
Very well, thank you.
Praise the Lord. Sister Philip Marie.
A member of the Sisters of the Most Precious Blood in O'Fallon, Missouri. Sister Philip Marie is 88 years old and under the care of SSM Hospice at Mount Carmel Nursing Home in St. Charles, Missouri.
I can have daily Holy Mass.
Much of the time, Sister Philip Marie seems to be animated, lucid, talkative, carrying on normal conversations with her friends and family. But at other times, observers say a lot of the times, she is heavily sedated, all part of what seems to be a deliberate attempt to end her life.
Something is happening.
What do you mean, sister? Is something going on in you that's different? Do you feel different?
Are they using more drugs? Are they putting more drugs in me?
In 1 week, Sister Philip Marie Burley will be dead.
And every soul in that state, and many full of grace and Holy Spirit.
Sister Dee Dee Byrne is superior of the Little Workers of the Sacred Hearts in Washington, D.C. Sister Dee Dee is also a medical doctor and a veteran, retired colonel in the Army, where she served in Iraq and Afghanistan. She has known Sister Philip Marie for more than 30 years.
We were pretty close to best friends. I'm a doctor, and I know when there's good therapy and bad therapy, when there's someone who's being euthanized, not being euthanized. We need to bond together, we need to stand strong together, speak truth, and not be afraid to say that what's happening is wrong. That's why I have no problem saying that Sister, as a medical doctor, I can clearly say she was murdered.
In the state of Missouri and dozens of other states, euthanasia is illegal. Withdrawing food and water, however, is not. So doctors can order that food and water be withdrawn from a patient. Yes, the patient will die, but it is not illegal. Critics call that stealth euthanasia, flying under the radar, so to speak, to end the lives of those deemed vulnerable, namely the elderly, the disabled, those whose quality of life doesn't measure up to what some would consider a life worth living.
Hospice is in the business of death.
Michelle Dewars is a former hospice nurse who left the industry when she began to witness a lot of her patients dying. What she came to believe was euthanasia. In hospice care, the truth, she says, is that patients are expected to die. And because of government regulations and Medicare reimbursement formulas, she says hospice systems have an incentive to help their patients die sooner rather than later.
They do have a license to kill, and they are not afraid to use it.
And ostensibly, it's happening everywhere. Case in point, 19-year-old Grace Shara. Born with Down syndrome, Grace was a beacon of light to her family.
She was an absolute joy. She was the life of the party. She was sweet, thoughtful, full of love, and funny.
Her love for Jesus was so genuine. She always took every opportunity to shine the Lord's light.
When Grace tested positive for COVID and her blood oxygen levels seemed lower than normal, she was admitted to St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Appleton, Wisconsin, a Catholic hospital in the St. Louis-based Ascension Healthcare Network. The Shara family believes Grace was overly sedated and deliberately killed by members of the hospital staff.
I just thought, okay, this was a Catholic hospital. And we learned the meds that they had given her and that they were intended to kill her. We were like, wait a second, how could this Catholic hospital even be part of this? Because the Ten Commandments include thou shalt not kill. And that's what they did.
Initially, Grace's hospital stay seemed to be going well, but after a few days, her medical records show an alarming turn of events.
Well, she got a sedation drug, Precedex, which should have been only given to her for 24 hours.
And the warning on the Precedex package insert says to not use for more than 24 hours. By the time she had already been on Precedex for 4 days.
Grace's medical records lay out the timeline on the day she died. They also show doctors put a DNR, a do not resuscitate order, on Grace, all without permission from her parents.
So at 10:48 in the morning on Grace's last day, the doctor increased Precedex to the maximum allowable dose. At 10:56, he put an illegal do not resuscitate order on her chart. At 11:25, they gave her the first dose of lorazepam. Well, lorazepam is contraindicated with Precedex, so that shouldn't have been combined. Lorazepam stays in the system between 12 and 14 hours. So now she's on full dose Precedex. They add lorazepam. At 5:46, 3 minutes later, another dose of lorazepam, and at 6:15, they gave her morphine as an IV push. So now she's got those 3 meds in her system, which is exactly what you use in somebody's last half hour of life in hospice care. And when it came time to revive Grace, the DNR was in place.
Meantime, Grace's sister Jessica was in the room watching it all unfold. She called her parents on FaceTime, and they all began screaming at the doctors and nurses to save Grace. No one stepped in.
They said, get the nurses, and I said, I've been trying to get somebody in here to look at Grace and help her, and no one's coming in the room. And so I'm out in the hallway now, screaming and yelling, and they're screaming and yelling to get help.
And we all started screaming, save our daughter. That's when we learned she's DNR. No doctor or nurse came in the room after giving Grace morphine at 6:15. They refused to even come in the room. So we watched her die on that FaceTime call 7 minutes after Jessica called us.
That's a terrible injustice. That is a deprivation of civil liberties. Because in no other setting in the United States does a person lose his or her ability to speak for himself. It's only in medical care settings that a patient goes into a hospital or a care center and all of his or her civil liberties are ripped from his bedside.
What are they doing to my legs?